Hey folks, I'm Pugs, and this tutorial is about how to build a major or minor harmonized scale. Now, to put this into plain English and to take the fancy music theory speak out of it, basically what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to find the chords in any particular key. To do this, we are going to go over two methods. The first method is to build out the chords manually. And we can do this by identifying all of the notes in the key. Basically, we're going to be building out a major scale for major keys or a minor scale for minor keys. Major keys have a major scale associated with them, and minor keys have a minor scale associated with them. So we're going to build out the major or minor scale that corresponds to the key that we're in. And then we're going to assign either a major chord quality, a minor chord quality, or a diminished chord quality to each one of the notes in whatever major or minor scale that we built out for that key that we're in. The second method that we're going to go over is how to use the circle of fifths as a visual tool to just be able to visually see all the chords in a key in just one easy step in one shot. I know that the circle of fifths, for most of us, the first time we look at it, the first time it was put in front of us, we looked at it and we're like, oh my goodness, this is a jumble of letters. What do I even do with this? And then we just set it aside and maybe haven't come back to it. There are many practical uses for the circle of fifths. It's organized in a certain way so that it can be useful. This happens to be, in my opinion, probably one of the most practical uses for the circle of fifths. So we're going to go over that method as well. It's much easier than the manual method. Okay, let's start with the manual method. So what we're going to do is we're going to build the keys chords from the major or the minor scale. Okay? In order to do this, we're going to start with the chromatic scale. Now, a major scale or a minor scale only has 7 notes in it. For instance, the key of C major has 7 notes: C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And then we can throw in a C, which is the octave. It's the scale starting over an octave higher. The key of A minor, for instance, the A minor scale has 7 notes in it: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then A is our octave. It starts over at A. It loops over. So if there are 7 notes in a major or minor scale, we have to figure out what those 7 notes are. And to do that, we start with the chromatic scale. The chromatic scale is 12 notes. It is all of the notes that are available to us in Western music. So what I mean by that is the chromatic scale is A sharp / B flat. Yes, there are 2 names for this one note. The A sharp and B flat names for this note are what we call enharmonic equivalents. There's a deeper subject here that we're not going to dive into. Just for the sake of this tutorial, we're going to say that A sharp and B flat are 2 names that refer to the same note, that refer to the same sound, that refer to the same note in the chromatic scale, or whatever major or minor scale that we're in. So we have A sharp, B flat, we have B, and we have C. You notice there's no sharp or flat in between B and C. We have C sharp / D flat. We have D, then D sharp, E flat. And then we have E, and then we have F. You'll notice again, there's no sharp or flat in between E and F. As a memory aid, if you're having trouble remembering which notes do or don't have a sharp or a flat in between them, think of breakfast. We want our bacon crispy and we want our eggs fried. So bacon crispy, B, C. There's no sharp or flat in between the notes B and C. eggs fried. There's no sharp or flat in between E and F, eggs fried. Okay. From F, we then have F sharp, G flat. And then we have G. And then we have G sharp, A flat. Those are the 12 notes of the chromatic scale. When we run out of letters in the musical alphabet, we loop back to the beginning and start over an octave higher. So we go from G sharp, A flat, we go back to A, and then if we needed to, we could continue up the scale from there. Okay, so from these 12 notes, the way that we distill the 7 notes of a major scale or the 7 notes of a minor scale, the way we distill that out is by using either the 2131 formula for a major key, and that will produce a major scale. Major keys have a major scale associated with them. Or we apply the 11212 formula for a minor key, which will give us a minor scale. Minor keys have a minor scale associated with them. 2131 and 11212 are not the official names of these formulas of this method of figuring out the major or minor scale associated with a key. They're memory devices that I've been using, that I made up a long time ago, and that I've been using forever. They help me to remember. Hopefully they'll help you to remember. And if they don't, then maybe you can come up with your own memory aid that'll work. But 2131 and 11212 have worked for me. They've helped my memory a great deal, helped me memorize the order of whole steps and half steps to build out a major key or a minor key. And they've helped other people that I've taught along the way. So let's start with the 2131 rule for the major scale. So what the 2131 rule is a series of whole steps and half steps. 2 whole steps, 1 half step, 21, 2, 1. 3 whole steps, and then 1 half step, 31, 3, 1. For the sake of definition, a half step is 1 position over on the chromatic scale, and a whole step is 2 positions over on the chromatic scale. So if we go from A to A sharp, B flat, that is a half step. That is 1 position over on the chromatic scale. If you think about the neck of your guitar and think about the E string, either one, high E string or low E string, at the 5th fret, if you play an E string at the 5th fret, that is the note A. If you move from fret 5 to fret 6, you have moved a half step. You moved 1 fret. You have moved a half step from A to A sharp or B flat. The same is true if we go from fret 7 to fret 8. We're going from B to C. We're moving 1 half step, 1 position over on the chromatic scale or 1 fret over. A whole step is 2 positions over on the chromatic scale or 2 frets on your guitar neck. So if we go from B to C sharp / D flat, that is a whole step. That's 2 positions over B, C, C sharp / D flat. That's 2 positions over on the chromatic scale. That is 2 frets over on your guitar neck, going from fret 7 to fret 9. Hopefully that makes sense. So what we do to apply the 2131 rule, this series of whole steps and half steps, to apply that rule to a major key to get the major scale, we start with the letter name of the key that we're in. So let's take C major. C major is an easy key to do because it has no sharps and no flats in it. So if we start with C, the letter name of the key that we're in, that is our root. That is our first degree, first scale degree. That is our starting point for the scale. So we start with C, and then we do 2 whole steps. So we're going to go from C to D, that's 1 whole step, and then D to E, that is a second whole step. That's the 2 in 21. Now we're going to move 1/2 step from E to F. That is 1/2 step. So that's 21. So the first 4 notes of our C major scale for the key of C major is C, D, E, F. Those are the first 4 notes. And then we're going to move on to the 31 part of the formula. So we're going to go 31. The 3 represents 3 whole steps. So we're going to go from F to G. That's 1 whole step. We're going to go G, and remember I said when we run out of letters, we loop back to the beginning. So G, G sharp, A flat, and then A. So G to A is our second whole step. A to B is our third whole step of the 31 part. And then the 1 is 1/2 step back to C to close out the scale, which brings us back to our root, an octave higher. So the letters, the notes in the key of C, the C major scale, are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. Now, when you apply this 21-31 rule, you'll sometimes have a key that has a sharp or a flat in it. Sometimes more than one sharp or a flat in it. Sometimes many sharps or flats in it. So let's take the key of G. The key of G is another easy example because it only has one sharp or flat in it, and it happens to be a sharp. So let's go ahead and figure that out using the 21-31 rule. So in the key of G, we're going to start with the letter name of our key. So we're going to start on G. That is our root. That is our first scale degree. That is the starting point for the scale. So 21, 2 whole steps, 1/2 step. We're going to go from G to A. That's 1 whole step. A to B. That is our second whole step. B to C. That is our 1/2 step. That's 21. So the first 4 notes of the key of G, the G major scale, are G, A, B, C. Now we're going to do the 31 part of the rule, and that's 3 whole steps and 1/2 step, 31. So we're going to go from C to D, that is 1 whole step, D to E, that is a second whole step, and then E to F sharp / G flat, that's our third whole step. So are we going to call this note, remember, it's an enharmonic equivalent. This note can be called either F sharp or G flat. So which one are we going to choose to call it by? Well, we're going to choose F sharp. The reason why we're going to choose F sharp is because if we go from E to G flat, that means there's no F in the scale. If we skip over an F in the scale, that breaks one of the quote-unquote rules in which we have all of the letters of the musical alphabet represented within the scale and not duplicated. So if we go from E to G flat, not only are we skipping over F, but we are also introducing 2 Gs. We now have a G flat and a G. Because we started with G, right? We're in the key of G major. So we're going to call this an F sharp. And so that's our 3 whole steps, and then our 1/2 step brings us back to G to close out the scale. So the key of G major has the major scale of G major, which is G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. Easy peasy, right? The minor keys, to build a minor scale to correspond with whatever minor key that we're in, is a very similar approach in that we're going to move in a series of whole steps and half steps. This time we're going to use 11-2-1-2. The 11 represents 1 whole step, 1/2 step. 2 whole steps, 1/2 step, and then 2 whole steps to close out the scale. So let's go ahead and use A minor, the key of A minor, as an example because it don't like the key of C. It doesn't have any sharps or flats in it. Just like the key of C major, A minor only has whole notes. I shouldn't say whole notes. That's the wrong terminology. It does not have any sharps or flats in it. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start with the letter name of the key that we're in A minor. So we're going to start with A, and then we're going to apply this series of whole steps and half steps to the chromatic scale. So we start with A, and we do one whole step to B. And then we do a whole step to C. That's our 11. One whole step, one half step. And then we're going to do 2 whole steps from C to D. That is one whole step. And then from D to E, that is a second whole step. And then we're going to do 1 half step to F. And then we're going to close with 2 whole steps. F to G, and then G back to A. So the key of A minor has the notes in the A minor scale of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. That is our A minor scale that we built using the 11-2-1-2 rule. Just like with the major scale, sometimes you are going to have keys that have sharps or flats in them. So let's choose the key of E minor, because just like the key of G major, E minor only has 1 sharp or flat in it, and it happens to be a sharp. It happens to be the same sharp, F sharp, but it only has 1 in it, so it's easy to use for an example here. So we're going to start with E. Since we're in the key of E minor, E is the letter name of the key, so we're going to start there on the chromatic scale. And then we're going to count out 11-2-1-2. We're going to apply our 11-2-1-2 formula. So E to F sharp is 1 whole step. And again, we're choosing F sharp here so that we're not skipping over F. We're not going E to G flat, which would leave F out of the scale. And we want all of the letters of the musical alphabet represented in our scale. So we go E to F sharp. It's 1 whole step. And then F sharp to G, that is 1 half step. And that's the 11, 1 whole step, 1 half step. Now we're going to go 2 whole steps. For 2 whole steps, we're going to go G to A, that's 1 whole step, and A to B, that's 2 whole steps. Now we're going to do 1 half step to C, and then we're going to close the scale with 2 whole steps to get back to our starting point. So C to D is 1 whole step, and D back to E, our starting point, is our second whole step. So the key of E minor has the E minor scale, which is made up of the notes E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, and E. That is our E minor scale. Easy enough? Okay, so once we have our scale, whether it's a major scale or a minor scale, major for major keys, minor scale for minor keys, once we have our scales built out, we go through and we assign each position in the scale a numeric value known as a scale degree. And all we're doing is we're going through the scale sequentially in numerical order. We're doing, for the key of C, our first scale degree is C, our second scale degree is D, our third scale degree is E, our fourth scale degree is F, our fifth scale degree is G, our sixth scale degree is A, our seventh scale degree is B. In the key of G that we figured out, right? 1 is G, 2 is A, 3 is B, 4 is C, 5 is D, 6 is E, 7 is F sharp. Minor keys, exact same thing. We're just going to go sequentially through the scale and assign the number in order. 1 is A, 2 is B, 3 is C, 4 is D, 5 is E, 6 is F, 7 is G. Same thing in the key of E minor. The E minor scale starts with E, so that's our 1. F sharp is our 2, G is our 3, A is our 4, B is our 5, C is our 6, and D is our 7. And once we've assigned the scale degrees to the notes, numbered them in sequential order, we then convert those scale degrees to Roman numerals and assign chord qualities. The reason why we're converting them to Roman numerals is so that we can use uppercase Roman numerals to denote major chords and lowercase Roman numerals to denote minor chords. And we can use a lowercase Roman numeral with the degree symbol, that little circle, to denote a diminished chord. And we assign the chord qualities in this order. For major keys, we assign them in the order. The 1 is always major. The 2 is always minor. The 3 is always minor. The 4 is always major. The 5 is always major. The 6 is always minor. And the 7 is always diminished. For minor keys, we have a different order. We have the 1 always being minor, the 2 always being diminished, the 3 always being major, the 4 always being minor, the 5 always being minor, the 6 always being major, and the 7 always being major. Now that's a whole lot to remember. And like I said, a lot of music theory, or at least some music theory at the beginning especially, is some rote memorization. This is one of those things that's rote memorization. But instead of trying to remember that for a major key, it goes, the order of chord qualities goes major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. Instead of trying to remember that, which I actually have now in my head, but the easier way for me to remember it is by 1, 4, 5. 1, 4, and 5 in a major key are always major. 1, 4, and 5 in a major key are always major. 7 is always diminished, and that means whatever is left over are going to be minor, right? So just remembering 1, 4, and 5 always being major in a major key, that gets me like halfway there. 7 diminished, and then everything that's left over is going to be minor. So that would be 2, 3, and 6 are going to be minor. In minor keys, the way I remember it is 1, 4, and 5 are always minor chords. In major keys, 1, 4, and 5 are always major. In minor keys, 1, 4, and 5 are always minor. And then I just have to remember that 2 in a minor key is always diminished. And that leaves us with 3, 6, and 7, and those are always going to be major. As long as I can remember 1, 4, and 5, it gets me almost halfway there for both major and minor keys. 1, 4, and 5 are always major in major keys. 1, 4, and 5 are always minor in minor keys. 7 is always diminished in a major key. 2 is always diminished in a minor key. And then the others is just process of elimination. Hopefully that'll help. I know that I've been doing this for a long time, and so I make a lot of assumptions, and I might be skipping over context and details that I'm taking for granted, but might be important to you. So if there's anything that needs clarifying, if you have any questions that need to be asked, please ask them in the comments. I am more than happy to dive in and try to clear things up, answer any questions you may have. And also, if you have a memory aid that works better than any of the memory aids that I'm using, let us know. Share. Help your fellow learners out with whatever memory aids and memory tricks that you use. Okay. Now that we have this manual method under our belt, let's jump into a visual method. And it's a much easier visual way of seeing all the chords in any particular key. And to do this, we're going to use the circle of fifths. Now, the circle of fifths, like I said, looks like a jumble of letters, and it's actually organized very specifically. And so let's talk a little bit about how it's organized so that the rest of this portion will make a little bit more sense, okay? A little bit of the why behind the how. So if we look at the circle of fifths, what we can see is that the outer ring is it represents all of the major chords / keys. The middle ring represents all of the minor chords / keys. And the innermost ring represents all of the diminished chords. There aren't really diminished keys. Well, that's a whole different topic. Anyways, so let's just say that it represents all the diminished chords. So outer, major, inner, minor, middle, minor, and then innermost is diminished. The way the letters are organized, if we move clockwise, we go from C to G. that is a fifth. If we go from G to D, that is a fifth. If we go D to A, that is a fifth. This is why it's called the circle of fifths. We call it this interval, like from C to G, we call this interval a fifth because there are 5 notes involved. C, D, E, F, G. We're skipping from 1 to 5. We are moving in fifths. Same thing, G to D. G, A, B, C, D. We're moving G to D. D, A, B, C, sorry. Totally messed up my alphabet there. I need to go back to kindergarten. D, E, F, G, A, 5. A fifth to A. All the way around, going clockwise, we're moving in fifths. If we go the other direction, if we go anti-clockwise or counterclockwise, we go C to F, that's a fourth. C, D, E, F, there are 4. I should count this way, not use the thumb. C, D, E, F. There are 4 notes involved. That is a fourth. If we go F to B flat, F, G, A, B flat. 4 notes involved, right? So when we move counterclockwise, we're moving in fourths. And the same thing is true with the minor in the middle, the minor chords / keys in the middle. A minor to E minor is a fifth. A minor to D minor is a fourth. And same with the diminished. B to F sharp is a fifth. B to E is a fourth. So we're moving in either fifths or fourths, depending on if fifths going clockwise, fourths going counterclockwise. All right, so that's how the circle of fifths is organized. So how do we use this to figure out the chords in a key? To figure out the chords in a key, we're just going to take a slice of the circle. So in this case, for the major keys, we're going to take this slice. So in the major keys, this middle segment in the outer ring is your 1 chord. So if we're talking about the key of C, we would place this 1 over the C in the circle of fifths. And then if we look to the left and the right of the 1 chord, we get our 4 chord and our 5 chord. If we move in 1 ring from the 1 chord, we move 1 ring in, we get our 6 chord, which is minor. If we look to the left and to the right, we have our 2 and our 3 chords, which are also minor. And then if we move 1 more ring inwards, we get our 7 chord, which is diminished. So by laying this slice and centering it over the top of whatever key that we're in, so make sure that the 1 is centered over the top of whatever key that we're in, we can then very quickly visually see the 4-5 major chords, the 1-4-5 major chords. We can see the 6-2-3 minor chords, and we can see the 7 diminished chord by laying this slice on top of the circle of fifths. Minor chords, we're doing a very similar thing. We're laying, except for now, the 1 chord is the center segment of the middle ring. And we lay that on top of whatever key that we're in. If we're in the key of A minor, we put this 1 chord over the A minor. If we are in the key of E minor, we place this 1 chord over E minor. Because remember, the 1 chord is going to be, in a minor key, is going to be a minor chord. So we just put this 1 chord over whichever corresponding key we want to analyze. And then if we look to the left and the right of the 1 chord, we have the 4 and the 5 chords, which are also minor in a minor key. If we move 1 ring out from the 1 chord, we get the 3 chord, which is major. And if we look to the right and to the left and to the right, we have the 6 and the 7 chords, which are also major. And then if we move 1 ring in from the 1 chord to the innermost ring, we get our 2 chord, which is diminished in a minor key. So by laying this slice anywhere on the circle of fifths, we can figure out and quickly see visually all the chords in that minor key. So for example's sake, if we take that major slice and we lay it so that this one chord is laying on top of the C, we look to the left and the right, and we have our 4 and our 5 chords. C, F, and G are all major in a major key, in the key of C major. So C major, we have C, F, and G as our major chords. If we move inwards one ring to the middle ring, we have our 6th chord. We look to which is minor. We look to the left and the right. We have our 2 and our 3 chords, which are minor. A minor, D minor, E minor in the key of C are our minor chords. We move one more ring inwards to the innermost ring, and we have our 7 chord, which is B diminished. So you can see that just by laying this on top of the circle of fifths, we come up with the same harmonized scale: C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished. We came up with the same harmonized scale, all the chords in the key, that we did using the manual method previously. Another example would be the key of G. This time we're going to center this one chord on top of G because we're in the key of G major. We look to the left and the right, and we have our 1, 4, and 5 chords, which are always major in a major key. We have, by moving in one ring from the 1 and then looking to the left and to the right, we have our 6, 2, and 3 chords, which are always minor in a minor key, in a major key, rather. We move one more into the innermost ring, and we have our diminished chord. And you can see that it corresponds exactly to the harmonized scale that we built out manually earlier in this tutorial. G is our 1, A minor is our 2, B minor is our 3, C is our 4, D is our 5, E minor is our 6, and F sharp diminished is our 7. We do the exact same thing of overlaying a slice in order to figure out the minor keys. For the minor keys, we take our 1 chord right here and we lay it on top of whatever key we're trying to analyze. So in this case, for A minor, we lay it here. We have the chord A minor now is our 1, D minor is our 4, and E minor is our 5. Our major chords, we go out one ring from the root, from A minor, and we get C, F, and G as being the major chords in the key of A minor. We go in one ring to the innermost ring from our root, and we have B diminished, which is our 2 chord, which is diminished in the key of A minor. We have the harmonized scale that we figured out earlier, and you see it corresponds exactly. If we do the same thing with the key of E minor, we get the exact same results. We take our 1 chord in the slice and we lay it over the key that we're looking at. We're looking at the key of E minor, and then we look left and right and we have E minor, A minor, and B minor as our 1, 4, 5 minor chords in the key of E minor. We go out one ring from the root to G, and that's our 3 chords. So now we look to the left and to the right, and we have our 3, 6, and 7, which are always major in a minor key. So we have G, C, and D major chords. Go one ring in to our diminished ring, our innermost ring, and we have our 2 chord, which is F sharp diminished in the key of G. in the key of E minor. You can see it corresponds exactly in the key of E minor to the harmonized scale that we built out manually. And you can see that this is actually a very easy way of transposing keys. Like if you're in the key of G and your singer or somebody else in the band is like, hey, I can't do key of G, let's try it in the key of C. You just look at the chord progression. Let's say the chord progression is a 1, 4, 5. you just change that from the key of G to the key of C. You just move that slice over so that the slice is laying on the key of C instead of the key of G, and you look to see what your 1, 4, 5 chords are. It's an easy way of transposing keys whenever you need to, and it's a fantastic tool. Okay, it's a fantastic tool for just being able to visually see the chords in a key very quickly. Okay, parting thoughts here. Transposition is one. But here's what I want you to really remember. These are the tips that I want you to bake into your noodle, to really bake into your head. In major keys, the 1, 4, and 5 chords are always major. 1, 4, 5 are always major in a major key. The 7 chord is always a diminished chord. That leaves, by process of elimination, 2, 3, and 6 as being your minor chords. So in a major key, just remember 1, 4, and 5 are always major. In minor keys, remember that 1, 4, and 5 are always minor chords, and that your 2 chord is always your diminished chord, which leaves 3, 6, and 7 by process of elimination as being the major chords in that minor key. 1, 4, 5 is always major in a major key. 1, 4, 5 is always minor in a minor key. 7 is always diminished in a major key. 2 is always diminished in a minor key. Just bake that into your head, and it'll take you very far. Okay, and then the other thing I need you to remember is the 21-31 rule and the 11-2-1-2 rule. 21-31 rule to make a major scale from the chromatic scale, and the 11-2-1-2 to make a minor scale from the chromatic scale. And whatever major key you're in is going to have a corresponding major scale. Whatever minor key you're in is going to have a corresponding minor scale. And that's it. Okay. So like I said, resources. I have included for you a full-sized circle of fifths that you can print out and have with you, so you can just look at it or have it stored on your phone or whatever you want. And these slices for the major keys and for the minor keys, so you can visually see on the circle of fifths what chords belong within that key, and you can see it quickly and easily. All right, questions. Like I said, so if there's anything that is not clear, or details that have been missed that you would like fleshed out, whatever your question may be, drop it down below. I am more than happy to try to answer any questions that you may have, or to clarify any details that you need clarification on. And until the next tutorial, happy picking, y'all.